Hi, those friends that are committed to trusted advisor relationships. A friend of mine named Bill recently told me that his team was having trouble getting traction at a large account, selling services. This was professional services in a B2B world. I asked him to tell me more about it, and he talked about how he had been working very hard. They were knocking on doors, they were working to build relationships, they made pitches, they responded to RFPs. It just felt very hard and it felt very slow to him. It felt like a vendor relationship and he wanted a partner relationship, and it was frustrating. And he certainly wasn't getting the results that he wanted. This sounded familiar to me, and I've heard it many times. It reminded me of how this often works and how it's really supposed to work. How it's supposed to work, I think, is a lot like a personal relationship, even a dating relationship and a marriage relationship. You commit to one another in a stepwise fashion, sort of like dating. Then you move to a new level of engagement, literally perhaps engagement, and then marriage. I call it the Cecil Method. Why do I call it that? Well, because about 20 years ago, I had a senior partner in the firm I was working take me to meet with a client. That client's name was Cecil. This is a picture of Cecil. Good guy, looks a lot like our clients, acts a lot like a lot of our clients. Um, and the way that my partner handled it, his name was John, the way John handled this conversation with Cecil was remarkable. I believe it's the way that we should handle all these client conversations, particularly when we're trying to create a new relationship with somebody or a company and invest in them. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the story hopefully this will make it a little more clear. Backing up, I wasn't very experienced. I'd done a lot of project work, consulting projects, but I'd not sold that much. I felt that superior client service and a great can-do attitude was all that it took. When my boss John called and asked me to lead an opportunity at this very large company, and one of the leaders in the industry, I was jacked up. I thought it was super. I remember feeling ready to go knock down doors, do all these things that were hard, like cold calling that I really hadn't done, but was told was hard. Um, do anything to make this happen. It was my opportunity. And John could see this excitement, maybe fear, but excitement in my face. And he said, and I remember he said this specifically, he said, just hold on, son. Don't get too excited. He literally said that. He said, just come watch how this is supposed to happen. He goes, I remember this well, he goes, act hungry. Acting hungry is good. Acting starving is not. I still don't know exactly what he meant, or I didn't know then, but I tagged along to watch because I knew it was going to be good. I'm sure this conversation with Cecil, the Cecil conversation, took a lot longer than I'm going to describe today. It was probably, many minutes and hours. Um, and it went something like this. He basically said, Cecil, we'd love to be here helping you. Your company's wonderful. It's a leader in the industry, and it's going to be a long-term winner. We have a lot to add. We know what we're doing. We've been around the industry, and he went to explain that. And it seems like you have a number of complex challenges and issues, and we'd love to help you. And we know that you probably need some firms focused on that. And we'd like to be one of those firms. Not the firm, just one of the firms to help you. And we're willing to make a commitment. He said, I'm willing to give you Mark. Mark, give a little bit about your background, and I did. And I'm willing to put some of my team on it. And we had a decent brand in the industry, but it wasn't the only brand in the industry. And he said, but if we're going to do that and we really want to make that investment, we need some help from you in order to do that really well. We could use some coaching. Would you coach us? Would you meet with us monthly? Would you give us one of the members of your team to be our sponsor so that when we need help, we can get help? Would you give us a place to work? Would you help us get an MSA? Would you this and that and this and that? One of the things he asked for, he said, would you help us find a small project that we could start working on to prove ourselves? And I was just sitting there watching him be hungry but not starving. He was wanting to help this client, but more importantly, he wanted the client to commit and to show that, yeah, they were willing to put a little bit of their skin in the game, a little bit of their energy, a little bit of their political capital to help us help them. So it was really interesting. Charlie Green in his work, The Trusted Advisor, talks about trust is equal to credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, all divided by self-orientation, which is what are you about? What are you trying to do? And in John's conversation with Cecil, he was basically saying, we want to help you, and a focus on you, the self-orientation, and we're willing to invest, and we need some of that back. So it was balanced. It was balanced. So he said, I don't want a decision from you right now. I'd like you to talk it through with your leadership team. We know we've got some baggage here, and we'll come back. And I think we probably came back in a couple of weeks. And we sat down, and he said, tell us how your conversations went. And Cecil said, we've talked, and we'd love to have you here. And the next thing I know, we're working on a small project, sole sourced. That sole source project, which was an enterprise-wide planning project, so it was great because we got to see the entire landscape of the company, make a lot of great relationships. I think even the profitability and the margin of it was very good. And then we went project after project after project, and that became one of the largest clients of the firm. So what are my points here? My major point is that this was a pull conversation. John had learned the art of pulling people along with him, and that this push mentality that we have in sales, this push mentality that exists in consulting, can work. It can drive dollars and nickels and quarters of business. But if you really want to make the impact that we all want to have, you've got to create as much pull as you do push. And we thought it was a pretty neat way of doing it. I hope this is helpful. In the next edition, we'll talk about the specific steps around doing that.